Norway, the land of fjords, legends, and limitless horizons. Norway is a country that seems almost mythical to outsiders. People imagine snow, northern lights, Vikings, and perhaps trolls wandering through forests. But the truth is far more complex and captivating. Norway is a nation where raw wilderness collides with sophisticated design, where an ancient seafaring people evolved into one of the most progressive societies on Earth, and where modern wealth has been built not by excess but by discipline and foresight. A geography carved by ice and ocean. Norway stretches like a slender ribbon along the northwestern edge of Europe. At over 1,700 kilometers long but rarely more than a few hundred kilometers wide, it clings to the jagged Scandinavian peninsula. Its land borders are relatively modest, Sweden to the east for nearly 1,600 kilometers, Finland in the far north, and just 196 kilometers with Russia at the remote Barents coast. But its maritime reach is vast, stretching into the North Sea, Norwegian Sea, and Arctic Ocean. The coastline is legendary, serrated by more than 1,000 fjords and surrounded by about 50,000 islands. If every curve and inlet is measured, Norway boasts one of the world's longest coastlines, over 100,000 kilometers. The glaciers of the Ice Age gouged deep valleys into the bedrock, which later flooded with seawater, giving rise to fjords like Sonefjord, the deepest and longest in Europe. Standing on the edge of one of these natural cathedrals of stone and water feels like standing at the end of the earth. Beyond the mainland lie far-flung territories. Svalbard, with its glaciers, polar bears, and permafrost, sits halfway between Norway and the North Pole. It is home to Longyearbyen, the world's northernmost town of real size, and also to the Global Seed Vault, an underground fortress of biodiversity holding over 1 million seed samples as insurance for humanity's future. Jan Mayen, dominated by the volcanic Beerenberg, is one of Europe's most remote and inhospitable places. Further south, in the middle of the Southern Ocean, lies Bouvet Island, often called the most isolated island on Earth, surrounded by endless stormy seas. Building civilization in harsh nature. Norway's geography is dramatic, but it has also been an obstacle. With mountains covering about 70% of its land and only 3% suitable for agriculture, Norwegians had to rely on fishing, trade, and ingenuity. Even today, most people live near the sea, about 80% of the population is within 10 kilometers of the coast. The country's infrastructure reflects its determination to overcome geography. The Lærdal Tunnel, the world's longest road tunnel, burrows 24.5 kilometers through mountains. The Atlantic Ocean Road, a marvel of engineering, leaps from islet to islet across the waves, often appearing in car commercials. Countless ferries, bridges, and undersea tunnels connect communities scattered across the rugged coastline. The population is relatively small, about 5.5 million people, but their reach and influence are immense. From poor farmers to oil titans. For centuries, Norway was a land of poverty. The soil was thin, the winters long, and many Norwegians emigrated, especially to the United States, where today more than 4.5 million people claim Norwegian ancestry, almost as many as live in Norway itself. But everything changed in the late 20th century with the discovery of massive oil and gas reserves in the North Sea and Barents Sea. Unlike many resource-rich nations that squandered their fortunes, Norway took another path. It established the government pension fund Global, often called the Oil Fund, which now exceeds $1.5 trillion, making it the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world. Every citizen, in theory, is a stakeholder in this enormous safety net. The fund ensures that even when the oil runs dry, Norway will remain prosperous. Still, despite being a major petroleum exporter, Norway runs almost entirely on renewable hydropower, covering over 95% of its domestic electricity needs. It was also among the first countries to implement a carbon tax and today leads the world in adoption of electric vehicles, with Teslas and EVs dominating the streets of Oslo and Bergen. Landscapes of wonder. Beyond oil and infrastructure, Norway's greatest wealth is its natural beauty. The country is a playground for outdoor lovers. The Scandinavian mountains dominate the spine of the country, crowned by Galdhøpiggen, 2,469 m, the highest peak in northern Europe. The Glomma River, stretching 600 kilometers, waters the country's valleys and forests. Norway's waterfalls, like Voringsfossen, plunge from dizzying heights, powered by snowmelt and rain. The northern skies dance with the aurora borealis, while in summer the Arctic offers the eerie midnight sun. Norwegians embrace these elements with the philosophy of friluftsliv, meaning open-air life. Hiking, skiing, fishing, and climbing are not hobbies but essential parts of identity. It is said that Norwegians are born with skis on their feet, and the Winter Olympic medal count proves it. Norway holds more Winter Olympic gold medals than any other nation on Earth. People and culture. Ethnically, about 84% of Norway's population is Norwegian, with minorities including the Sami, the indigenous reindeer-herding people of the Arctic, as well as immigrant communities from Poland, Pakistan, Somalia, and many others. The Sami maintain a vibrant culture with their own parliaments, languages, and traditions, particularly visible in northern Finnmark. Norwegian is the official language, but it has two written standards, bokmål, used by most people, and nynorsk, based on rural dialects. Both are taught in school, making Norway one of the few countries where students must master two versions of their own language. In addition, the Sami languages have official status in the north. Norwegian society values equality, openness, and trust. In fact, income and tax records are publicly accessible to prevent corruption. Education is free, healthcare is universal, and parental leave is among the most generous in the world. Norway consistently ranks at or near the top of the Human Development Index. Traditions remain strong. On May 17, Constitution Day, Norwegians parade in colorful bunads, regional folk costumes embroidered with distinct patterns and passed down through families. Folklore, too, lingers in the popular imagination. Tales of trolls, huldras, forest spirits, and sea serpents are still told to children. Food and flavor. Norwegian cuisine reflects both necessity and creativity. Historically, preservation was essential, so dried fish, cured meats, and fermented dishes are common. Examples include lutefisk, dried cod soaked in lye, then cooked. Rakfisk, fermented trout eaten raw. Kjøttkaker, meatballs with brown gravy. Crumb-cake, delicate cone-shaped cookies. Brunost, the famous caramelized brown cheese. Yet the modern unofficial national dish is surprisingly tacos. Friday taco nights are a beloved ritual across the country, adapted with Norwegian twists like cucumber or sour cream. A journey through history. Norway's story is one of independence won and lost. The Viking Age, 8th to 11th centuries, saw Norwegian seafarers explore and raid from Ireland to Greenland, even reaching North America. The kingdom was united under Harald Fairhair, later Christianized, then devastated by the Black Death in the 14th century. For centuries, Norway was dominated first by Denmark under the Kalmar Union, then by Sweden. In 1814, Norway briefly gained independence and adopted a constitution, one of Europe's oldest still in use. Later forced into a union with Sweden, Norway finally achieved full independence in 1905. During World War II, Norway was invaded by Nazi Germany despite declaring neutrality. The government and royal family fled to London, while a resistance movement fought at home. After the war, Norway became a founding member of NATO and gradually built a modern welfare state. Twice, Norwegians voted against joining the European Union, preferring independence while still cooperating through the European Economic Area. Norway and the world. Despite its small size, Norway is globally active. It is a major peace broker, hosting negotiations from the Middle East to Sri Lanka, and awards the Nobel Peace Prize annually in Oslo. The country has close ties with the USA, especially through millions of Norwegian Americans in Minnesota and the Midwest. The UK, especially Scotland, through shared Viking heritage and World War II bonds. Switzerland, its parallel twin, in wealth, neutrality, and mountain culture. And, of course, its Nordic siblings, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, and Finland, who are rivals, partners, and family all at once. A nation of contrasts. Norway is both ancient and futuristic, local and global, rugged and refined. It is a land where glaciers calve into turquoise fjords, where legends of trolls echo in mountain passes, and where electric cars glide silently past medieval stave churches. With one foot in Viking sagas and another in modern innovation, Norway proves that prosperity can grow not from abundance, but from resilience, wisdom, and the will to thrive in the harshest of landscapes.